Imagine surviving a plane crash high in the frozen Andes Mountains, only to discover that rescue teams had stopped searching for you. Surrounded by endless snow, trapped above the clouds, and with almost no food, every sunrise became another impossible battle. For 72 days, hope refused to die, but survival demanded more courage than anyone could have imagined. On October 13, 1972, a Fairchild FH-227D aircraft carrying a Uruguayan rugby team, their families, and crew departed for Chile. Spirits were high, and the passengers expected an ordinary flight across the majestic Andes Mountains. None of them knew they were about to become part of one of history's greatest survival stories. As the aircraft approached the towering mountains, thick clouds and dangerous weather surrounded the flight path. Visibility became poor, and hidden peaks disappeared behind walls of snow and mist. Every passing minute increased the danger without anyone fully realizing how close disaster had become. Then, without warning, the aircraft struck the mountains. The impact tore away parts of the plane before the remaining fuselage slid violently across the frozen slopes. Within seconds, lives were changed forever as silence replaced the sound of powerful engines. When the movement finally stopped, survivors slowly opened their eyes to an unimaginable nightmare. Around them stretched endless snow-covered mountains with no roads, no villages, and no sign of human life. The freezing wind became their first enemy. The altitude made every breath difficult. Daylight reflected brightly from the snow, while temperatures dropped far below freezing. The damaged aircraft became the only shelter available in a place where nature showed no mercy. Far below the mountains, rescue teams immediately began searching for the missing aircraft. Planes crossed the skies while families waited desperately for good news. But the white wreckage blended perfectly into the endless snow, making it almost invisible from above. As darkness covered the mountains, the survivors huddled together inside the broken fuselage. The freezing night seemed endless, and uncertainty filled every heart. None of them knew that the greatest challenge was still waiting just beyond the next sunrise. In the next part, the story intensifies as the survivors face relentless cold, dwindling supplies, failed rescue efforts, and the growing realization that they may have to rely only on themselves to stay alive. The first few days passed with cautious optimism. Every distant sound in the sky made the survivors look upward, believing a rescue plane had finally arrived. But each aircraft disappeared beyond the mountains without seeing the small white wreck hidden beneath the snow. Food supplies quickly became dangerously low. Every meal grew smaller than the last, and every person understood that careful rationing was the only way to extend their chances of survival. Hunger slowly became a constant companion that never disappeared. The freezing temperatures became even more unforgiving at night. The damaged fuselage offered only limited protection from the icy winds, forcing the survivors to stay close together to conserve body heat. Every sunrise felt like a victory against the cold itself. Despite the harsh conditions, the group refused to surrender. They organized daily responsibilities, cared for the injured, collected snow for drinking water, and strengthened their makeshift shelter. Their greatest weapon was no longer comfort. It was teamwork. Then another devastating blow arrived. News eventually reached the survivors through a small radio that the official search operation had been called off. Authorities believed there was no possibility that anyone could still be alive after so many days in the mountains. For a brief moment, hope seemed to disappear into the endless white landscape. The realization that no one was coming forced every survivor to face a painful truth. If they wanted to leave the Andes alive, they would eventually have to find their own way home. As the days turned into weeks, survival demanded impossible choices. The group faced extreme hunger and conditions beyond anything they had ever imagined. They made deeply difficult decisions with the single purpose of preserving life. Decisions remembered today not for sensation, but for the extraordinary human instinct to survive under unimaginable circumstances. Even in the middle of despair, determination refused to die. Every sunrise became another promise to keep fighting. Every small success, finding a useful item, improving the shelter, or encouraging one another, became proof that hope was still alive beneath the frozen peaks. After more than 2 months in the frozen wilderness, the survivors realized they could no longer wait for a miracle. The only remaining hope was to cross the towering Andes Mountains on foot. It was a journey that many believed no human could survive. Two determined survivors prepared for the impossible expedition. Carrying only a few homemade supplies, they stepped away from the wreckage and into a world of endless snow, towering cliffs, and freezing winds. Behind them, the others watched with silent hope. Every step became a battle against exhaustion. The thin mountain air made breathing difficult, while deep snow slowed every movement. During the day, the brilliant sunlight reflected off the snow, and at night, freezing temperatures tested the limits of human endurance. After days of climbing through the unforgiving mountains, they finally reached a high ridge. Instead of seeing the end of the Andes, they discovered countless snow-covered peaks stretching to the horizon. For a brief moment, the overwhelming view threatened to destroy their remaining hope. Refusing to surrender, they continued forward. Day after day, they crossed steep slopes, icy valleys, and dangerous terrain. At last, the endless white landscape slowly gave way to flowing rivers, green hills, and signs of civilization. Their long journey finally brought them to another human being. A local shepherd noticed the exhausted men from across a river. Unable to cross the rushing water, they found a way to communicate, delivering the incredible news that survivors were still alive high in the Andes. Rescue teams immediately launched a new mission. Helicopters climbed into the mountains and finally located the wreckage that had remained hidden for 72 days. One by one, the remaining survivors were lifted to safety, ending one of the greatest survival ordeals ever recorded. The Andes flight disaster became far more than the story of a plane crash. It became a timeless reminder that courage can survive even when hope seems lost. In a place where the world believed no one could live, the human spirit proved stronger than fear, stronger than despair, and stronger than the mountains themselves. More than 50 years later, this extraordinary true story continues to inspire millions, reminding us that sometimes the greatest victory is simply refusing to give up.